So the first element, the first of the three, is take a vacation. Now, I know you're like, Julie, summer is over. We don't have time for vacations. It's not, okay, I'm not talking about you have to leave. I'm not even talking about a staycation. I am talking about taking a mental vacation. Oh my goodness. All of us high performers, highly motivated, ambitious people, we can get into a fixed gear of grind it through, go, 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 and get her done, which is what I had been doing leading into my aha of, oh, that's why I lost my joy. And so we have to create space so that we can take mental vacations. Welcome back, or welcome to the Conscious Investor podcast. This is the show where we talk about health, mindset, and wealth building strategies. Today, we're talking about finding joy. If this doesn't apply to you directly, I am 100% certain that you know someone that is going to benefit from this episode. Because the reality is that there is so much uncertainty in the world right now. It could be, from the political stratosphere to global events, layoffs, inflation, the economy, the future for our kids, even in the home life of, golly, the teens are arguing and the bickering and the running around here, there, and everywhere. There could be so much going on in life that it feels like the joy is just evaporated. And today we're going to talk about bringing the joy, finding, restoring, replenishing that joy back into our lives. Before we dive into this podcast episode, I wanted to just let you know that tickets for the Conscious Investor Growth Summit 2025 will go live in just a matter of weeks. And it's easy to put off picking up those tickets until the last minute. But this is an event that you don't want to miss. Each year, I curate a powerful speaker lineup. And each year, attendees are shocked by the caliber of the content, the attendees, and the overall experience. I was actually wondering if I'd be able to top this last year's event because it was so powerful. But wow, the speaker lineup is nearly complete. And oh my gosh, you don't want to miss out. You will have FOMO for sure. This is year 3 of the Conscious Investor Growth Summit. And this event is dedicated to making a massive impact in your life in the areas of health, mindset, and wealth building strategies. And it is always going to I'll put always in air quotes because I might go up to 200, but we strive for 150 attendees, 150 tickets, because we want to keep that cozy, intimate atmosphere. We don't want to have some big, massive event. We really want you to be able to connect and have just deep, rich, meaningful relationships building out with other people. If you would like priority access to those tickets, which there's a certain way these tickets are released, you may have heard me already talk about that on past episodes, but you can get priority access to the tickets by clicking the link in the show notes below. So you want to make sure you do that so that when they go live, you can snag your tickets. And just do yourself a favor, just get a +1, even if you don't know who's coming with you or if your spouse is committed, you will be glad that you did. Now, I also wanted to just say, I don't like best kept secrets. And a lot of times what I would say, like the good guys are usually the people that are quiet and modest and they don't go, they're not the loudest people in the room. And that's why I was so excited. I want to share with you about my friends, Nick and Jim from Create Tailwind. So there are a lot of experts in this industry of infinite banking. And there isn't anyone I would trust more than Nick and Jim at Create Tailwind. Nick and Jim, they're good friends, and they share the same conscious investor philosophy of really educating clients so that you can make an educated decision before you're not making any transactions. Like, they're just going to pour into you, educate you, serve you, support you, so that you can then make the best decision for your future. They have a strong community, tons of resources, a powerful podcast, and then they also have, which is really important, they have the bandwidth for supporting. If every conscious investor signed up and said, I need to go work with Nick and Jim over at Create Tailwind with their infinite banking, then you would be able to be served. They have that level of bandwidth, but they still have that cohesive connectedness that we all love. So if you are looking to take a next step in that direction of infinite banking, then head on over to createtailwind.com to learn more. Again, that's createtailwind.com. And if you're hearing this term, infinite banking, for the very first time, you definitely want to head on over to Create Tailwind. It's time to talk about joy. It's time for us to dive on in, okay? And I'm going to let you know, conscious investor, this is personal. I really went through, there's so much growth taking place in my life, and I feel like it's never going to end, which I hope it doesn't. But the pace at which it happens is sometimes a little bit exhausting or overwhelming. And I was starting to feel my joy fade. And you may have felt that in some of the podcast episodes. And I'm glad if you did, I'm kind of glad you did, because that's part of the realness of I'm a real person going through real experiences, and I'm really trying to grow in life and trying to serve powerfully. And so if you felt that, that's not a bad thing. It's probably a good thing that you felt that, because that means we have a level of connection. And I discovered in June, while I was at an event, that's when joy really started coming back into my life. In fact, that was when I realized that I had lost a lot of my joy. There was a few months after the Growth Summit where I think I was just exhausted, but I went into this just distracted, lost the joy, and just started going into more transactional. And you may have felt that also. And I apologize for that, conscious investor. It's not how I ever want to be. But it was kind of like a survival mode. Like, okay, I just have to what's the punch list? What do I have to get done? And so all of my routines that served me, did not enslave me, like we've talked about before, really took a beating, and they weren't in place. And so I was becoming more reactive to the world, to the circumstances around me, instead of being proactive and having a strategy that I knew would work. And in light of all of that, joy really, truly evaporated. And I could feel it, but I didn't know what to do about it. And maybe you feel like that right now. Like, maybe this right now is your aha, where you're like, oh, that's what's missing from my life. And you know me well enough by now, that I love curiosity. I love wonder, and I love what that invites into our life. And I just felt like my curiosity had evaporated. So I was at this event in June, and that was my moment of realizing I had lost the joy. I'd become transactional. My routines were sloppy. And one of the speakers, who's now a good friend, it was like he opened up all the windows in the house on a beautiful spring day, and it just like this beautiful breeze came in. It was like, oh, I could breathe again. Like, that's what was missing. And I want to share with you the 3 things that I think really have made the biggest difference in bringing joy back into my life. And the great thing is that I don't think that these are unique to me. So I think that if you or someone you care about right now is struggling with having that joy and that zest for life again, that I think that these are going to support you. Now, I want to be clear with the term joy. Joy does not mean giddy happiness. Like, it can elude to those things. But a lot of times we can think of joy in a flimsy way. And the reality is that we can be joyful and filled with joy regardless of our circumstances. And again, conscious investor, you've been listening long enough to know I have had a lot of massive life experiences. So I can definitely substantiate that I've had joy in the darkest times in life. And so I know that that's possible. So when I'm using the word joy in this episode, I'm talking about that undercurrent of peace. I'm talking about that hope that is another undercurrent there, and a level of optimism of it's okay. And honestly, it does oftentimes bring a lightness and a smile to the face, but not in a flimsy, uneducated, disconnected from the weight and the gravity of the circumstances around us. But that stems from a deeper confidence that anchors us down. So the first element, the first of the three, is take a vacation. Now, I know you're like, Julie, summer is over. We don't have time for vacations. It's not, okay, I'm not talking about you have to leave. I'm not even talking about a staycation. I am talking about taking a mental vacation. Oh my goodness. All of us high performers, highly motivated, ambitious people, we can get into a fixed gear of grind it through, go, 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 and get her done, which is what I had been doing leading into my aha of, oh, that's why I lost my joy. And so we have to create space so that we can take mental vacations. This is challenging for me, honestly, conscious investor. I love everything that I do so much that it's difficult for me to take a break from pursuing the tasks that I enjoy or that I know are going to support you, conscious investor. So in taking a vacation, here's what that can look like. And this is a practice I'm personally trying to fully embed into my life as a practice, as a routine, and that is rest. Have a designated day of rest. I know in a lot of different belief systems, they will take an actual Sabbath. And I was not raised to observe the Sabbath as the Sabbath. But one of my friends, that is part of his faith, is clearly taking a Sabbath. And I have some other friends that take a Sabbath. And I've thought about this so much. And, I'm going to dig into my Bible because I love my God and I love reading my Bible. And so, I know that sounds so nerdy, but I'm telling you, those are crazy cool stories in there. And when you read to say, like, who are you, God? Not who do people say you are, but who do you say you are? It gets really interesting. And so in that process, I've discovered that my need to continue in my tasks is me being self-reliant. It's me saying, I have to do this, and this is on my shoulders, and the weight of the world is on my shoulders. And so I need to take all of these hats, and they all have equal weight to them, and they all need my attention. And that is extremely overwhelming. And so when we actually take a rest for a day, it actually puts us in a position of dependence on things that are outside of us. And for someone such as myself, it's very difficult. I want personal freedom. I really like autonomy and independence, right? And so for me to actually surrender and say, this puts me in a compromised position, but I'm going to trust the process. Now, for those of you who listen and you share my faith, and some of you may have a belief system that is in line with this as well, here's what I recognize. For me, I recognize that when I surrender as I've surrendered, because I've been practicing this, right? As I practice surrendering time and giving that as I'm going to take rest, and I'm going to put more dependence on you, sovereign God. I'm noticing that there's this massive return on that in my life. And one of the things that happens when we take a vacation, like, I just want you to think, like, when we take a literal vacation, one of the things that happens is that all of the things that were so important before we left for our vacation, even if it's just a weekend trip or an overnight trip, all of a sudden your priorities just shifted and you come back with a fresh perspective and you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't even need to do that. Or, well, that's more important than I thought it was. And we have a new understanding, because when we're so close to something for so long, we stop seeing the nuances of it, and we start really magnifying areas that don't need to be magnified. And so when we take this Sabbath, when we take a day of rest, and some of you might be in a position where a full day isn't going to work for you, but use this concept and allow it to grow in your life. You could say, I'm going to set aside, I'm going to create a tech-free zone where, for, one evening a week, all the tech around me personally, I'm not going to engage in it. Or you can, right? I don't like rules and regulations so much. So I adapt this to what serves you. I don't have to tell you this is the exact step and exactly how you have to do it. I can give you suggestions, but I want to invite you to modify these for your schedule and for your needs. So again, you could take an entire day and say, I'm not going to touch any work. I'm not going to do any housework. I'm not going to do any of my work. I'm not even going to work on the projects that feel like play to me, because I'm going to release all of it for this day so that I can rest in other parts of my life I didn't even know needed tending to. And I can return to those projects with a fresh, renewed perspective. See what happens when you take this little bit vacation. Incorporate it, adopt it, make it a practice in your life. But please, Conscious Investor, come back and tell me how you did that. You can, communicate to me in the show notes. There are always links where you can reach out to me. And then also you can write a rating and review that lets us know, let other Conscious Investor knows how this is going for you. So the first way we can bring back joy is simply by shifting our perspective, by inviting rest, giving our brain a break, giving the routine a break, and just inviting rest. The second thing is stay in your lane. Wow, I was talking about all the hats that we can wear and the burden they can put on us, and how we can all of a sudden just feel like soldiers, where we just have to soldier on and we just have to get through the punch list and we just have to do these things right now because we have to do it. Release the control. Now, I'm a self-identified recovering control freak. I lovingly say I am a woman, a wife, a mom. I was a teacher. I'm a CEO of a company. I have lots of qualifications for loving control. And yet, particularly the CEO side recognizes that we really have to delegate. We have to surrender some of the tasks that we have so that we can be present with the tasks that only we can do. And so, this is going to sound so goofy. I don't like how super rad Steve does laundry. I would prefer he never does laundry in our house. And that goes back for decades. And it's one of our funny little nuances of our relationship. However, can I surrender the control of the laundry and say, I need to tag you in. I need some support on this, right? Like it sounds goofy. Maybe for you, and again, this might sound silly, but maybe this is allowing someone else to make your coffee, allowing someone else to make you breakfast, allowing someone else to communicate and work on the taxes or communicate with some of the business elements of your personal or your professional life where you're like, I could actually have somebody else do this. I'm just OCD and I need to make sure it gets done. As soon as you have that go off, you need to be asking yourself, why me? And what is the cost of me staying, like going and taking up all these lanes? So I want you to visualize for a moment. This is great. You can visualize with your eyes open. I want you to visualize I-5 in Southern California. And I don't know the Chicago numbers as well, but this would be like the 25 in the Denver area, right? So just think about mass lanes. Maybe it's the 805 down in further south in SoCal, right? You have maybe minimum of 5 lanes going across, okay? 5 lanes of traffic, and it is bumper to bumper. And you're trying to weave through this traffic. By the way, come on. Can we just not do that? Like, can we just not have weavers? We're all going to get there. But when we're doing that, we're really just cutting off the flow of traffic as we are doing that type of weave. And so I want to encourage you to just stay in your lane. Allow things to flow because they will flow, and you don't have to create resistance. You don't have to try to make sure every lane is a good lane to be in, and you don't have to jockey to be in all the lanes. I think a lot of us can relate to this whole traffic situation. Even if you're driving around the suburbs and it's, 2 lanes, you might be pivoting a little bit more than you should. And that applies to our actual real life, business wise, and running our homes and things like that. So we want to make sure, like, choose a lane. And if you can, invite somebody to the other lane beside you that needs tending to, so that it's not a burden on only you. Now, this last element of bringing back joy is my favorite. Take a vacation, stay in your lane. But this one right here really has been encouraging to my heart recently. And that is, you don't have to be the expert. Wow. A lot of times we reach a certain stage in our professional careers where people have expectations for us. And even within our homes, as spouses, we can start to have expectations as to, oh, well, of course I'm going to, ask Steve about what the best scotches are because he's an expert in that. And of course, he's going to ask me about commercial real estate investing or speaking because I'm the expert in that. And sometimes when we put that hat on as expert, it can be really heavy, really, really heavy. And we falsely believe that we need to act like an expert, and I've got it all together and I will tell you this is exactly how you need to invest, and if you do these 5 things you will become a billionaire. Like, we feel like we have to do that. And I want to invite you, wherever you are feeling this pressure to perform, this pressure to be the leader, to be the expert, I want you to just release the pressure valve. On bike tires, sometimes I can fill my bike tires up too much. And especially if I'm getting ready to go down a hill, I release a little bit of that pressure so I can get better traction. Not too much, but I don't want to bounce around. I want a little more traction on there. And I want you to just think about when you release the pressure on a tire. Psst, it goes, and it changes things so quickly. Or think about a tea kettle on the stove and it's just screeching at you and the steam is pouring out of the hole. But all you have to do is just lift it and then poof, it stops screeching, and it stops billowing out all of that steam, that's what I'm talking about. Release the pressure you are putting on yourself. How do we do this? This is what I am discovering. I'm learning more about this, but I think that I've learned enough at this point to be able to pass this along to you successfully. And that is inviting our favorite friend back to the table, curiosity. You see, it's far more fun to share the findings along the way, the things that curiosity has revealed to us, than to be this very expert of all experts. Let's be adventurers. We don't have to be experts, because on the journey of life, we are adventurers and we're coming across different terrain. And sometimes it's very familiar terrain. I've been in a lot of different mountain ranges, and I love mountains. And mountains have a very familiar feel. But if I'm in the mountains in Colorado, or if I'm in the North Idaho mountains or the California mountains, right? They all have a different vibe, a different subtle nuance to it. So I have some level of knowledge and expertise and skill, right? And wherewithal about mountains. But there's also the adventure and the curiosity of exploring just something slightly different. And that is life. Over life, we collect a body of evidence. We collect knowledge, skills, experience. We increase our talents, our abilities. And yet, life throws new things our way. And so, while we can have this foundation of, yes, we have some expertise, we also need to remember that we're explorers, we're adventurers, and we get to enjoy the curiosities of life. I will say that right there, just having my friend tell me that I don't have to be the expert, that I get to be the adventurer, the explorer, really shifted the joy in my life. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to be the expert. This is so cool. I mean, the lightness it invited in was so wonderful. And that doesn't change that I have expertise in areas. It doesn't change that. It just invites this new approach. And for me, that brought so much joy back into my life. And I think that you too, conscious investor, are a high achiever, and that you are ambitious. And you probably are putting a lot of pressure on yourself that's unnecessary. So I want to invite you, pull back that tea kettle, that valve that's screeching, just release it. Enjoy. Become that adventurer, that explorer. I think with these three approaches, conscious investor, with taking that mental vacation, staying in your lane, and living life as an adventurer explorer, you are going to really enjoy life once again. I appreciate you, conscious investor. Thanks for taking time to listen to the end of the episode. And until next time, live in the fullness of freedom.